What's going on, everybody? This is Raw Dog Sports. I am Mike. That way over there is Evo, and the guy in the middle is Mac. I am shaking in my custom baby seal leather boots because Ohio State is in a close matchup right now with Michigan. We don't know if that's a touchdown, but we got a lot of football to talk about. Mac, thank you for joining us today. We are diving into week 13 of the NFL. It's already been underway. We had a lot of football take place on Thursday, one game on Friday, and we've got a bunch more today. Gentlemen, welcome in. Evo, my man, how you doing?
I'm good, brother. I'm rushing. I'm tired. Started a little bit late today on my account because I had to go get some energy drinks to try to get a little pepped up here. Long Black Friday yesterday of sitting in bed and fucking playing Zelda Ocarina of Time for nostalgia's sake. Like, it was rough, you know? So 2 a.m. got on me real quick. But it's all good, man. Now I'm getting to watch a little bit of Ohio State Wolverines football. The blowout will continue. Yeah, Ohio State just went ahead, but the blowout will continue. And then we get to watch some football tomorrow and get to discuss it today with our guy Mac the Buffalo here. Mac, welcome to the show. Welcome back to the show. I believe we did a mock draft with you before. How you doing, buddy?
I'm doing great. I thought Thanksgiving was like a good reset. Went out the night before, probably had a little bit too much fun with the cousins. So, nursing a little bit for the past 2 days, but I've been hammering coffees and I'm fired up. I mean, just from like a Cleveland sports standpoint, we got snow tomorrow, brother. Like, it's going to be outside. I'm just trying to keep myself kind of level, because anytime that the weather starts getting bad a little bit here in Cleveland, the Dome people start coming out and they start saying, "Oh, I can't wait to put a roof on this stadium." No to the Dome. I want the snow. I want it to be an absolute mess tomorrow, because that is Cleveland Browns football, just physical AFC North style. So I'm excited.
Awesome, man. Hey, you get away with this one. A little bit too much fun with the cousins. We know you're a Browns fan, not a Packers fan, so we know what you're talking about. But glad to hear that you had that happen on Thanksgiving. And Mike, how was your Thanksgiving? How's the family doing? Did you eat a whole lot of tube steak, or was it a ham or trash bird?
So my Thanksgiving was okay. The food and all of that stuff was good. I smoked a couple of turkey breasts. I'm not a ham guy. I prefer turkey, but I also don't like dry ass turkey that's been roasted in an oven for 4 hours, because there's a lot of fucking people that like turkey, but then cook it like ass. So that is not lost on me. So I am a smoked turkey guy. We went low and slow, like 225, 250. I had to mess with the temperatures because it was fucking windy and snowy outside. But it came out pretty damn good. So that was good. But it was a tough day for my family, my extended family. There was a tragedy that took place. I have a second cousin, so my cousin's son, currently in the hospital. He's on life support. So any thoughts, prayers like that, whatever you do and don't believe, would be greatly appreciated. Any kind of thoughts. So, but besides that, man, I had a pretty good holiday. How was your holiday? You did not have the boys. I know that was probably not the greatest, but how was it for you and the lady? Who makes the turkey in your house? Is it you? Or is it the lady? Because I know you're not typically one to give a shit how things are made.
Oh, I'm a, I'll help with the fixings here and there, but I'm the main dish guy.
You are that guy.
Turkey doesn't come into this house because in general it's a trash bird. Pro tip, because turkey is such a problem and it does come out dry a lot of times. Yes, you can cook it well and it can come out good, but it dries out real quick afterwards. And I am a ham guy because that ham is great for everything for days, including soups afterwards. But if you want to go with the bird, pro tip, and I heard this year, and I think I want to do it in a future year, you can go out and get those little individual like deep fryers that you would, fry just a batch of French fries or something in.
Mm-hmm.
You can get them pretty damn cheap, like $15 a pop for a small one. And you get everyone that's come to your table a Cornish game hen, and you deep fry the Cornish game hen. Super quick, takes like 5 minutes to get the whole thing done. Crispy, fried, full bird, great for presentation.
Okay.
And it stays way more moist than a turkey otherwise does, just because of the disproportionate size of the legs and the breast and all that stuff. So, look, Mac, we're fat boys at heart. We love the food ideas here. So feel free to throw anything out if you got any pro tips.
I mean, I've heard about smoking turkey. I've heard beer can chicken, but like deep frying individual hens. That's, oh man, that I'm a little flustered right now. Not gonna lie. That's, man, I can't believe I never thought of that.
That does sound pretty boss. I'm not gonna lie.
It was a revolution to me when I heard that, and I was like, that's a memory for everybody. Especially when you have like Uncle Jim talking about something that they shouldn't be, and then the whole fight breaks out and hot grease gets thrown around. Fuck, it's perfect.
See, now what we have done, we have converted. We are a beef tallow household now. We have stopped buying oil. We bought a 50-pound box of it for like
big RFK fans there. Big RFK fans.
Well, listen, when your voice is this raspy, you kind of have to fucking get into that. All right.
I have worms eating my brain.
Oh man, guys, I hope you did have a great Thanksgiving. And also, pro tip: boil the bones of your turkey carcass afterward. Turn it into turkey broth, and then get some ramen noodles. Cut up the leftover turkey ramen. It's fucking banging. That's what we did yesterday with our leftovers. But enough about food. Let's talk football, because we have a few games that we need to recap. We had a banger day of football on Thanksgiving. There was a fuckload of points. Typically, we do not see that many points come on Thanksgiving Day, but this was not your typical Thanksgiving Day. Black Friday, kind of a meh game, in my opinion. It seemed a little boring, especially to start. The game was boring as shit. But Evo, my man, are we ready to recap the games that were before we start diving into our picks for this week?
Yeah, absolutely. I will stop watching coverage of this Michigan-Ohio State game. Excuse me there. Pull up the scores from our Thursday, Thanksgiving Day games, and Friday games. So first up, we had the Green Bay Packers going into Detroit versus the Lions. You and I both had the Lions. You went as far as to even drop the points for the Lions. It did not go that way. Lions dropped this one at home. Doesn't matter how cool the halftime show they have. The team still has to come out on the field and produce, and they did not today. Packers win 31-24.
Yeah, man, this was an interesting game. Jordan Love played pretty good. I mean, he throws 4 touchdowns. Now the accuracy still, but Christian Watson had a pretty damn good day. Dontavian Wicks obviously had a hell of a day. They won jump balls a lot, and that Lions secondary is susceptible. We've seen that over the last couple of years. So I thought their offense might get going a little bit more, but the pass rush for the Packers was really, really impressive, and they were able to get it done. Mac, what do you got on this game, man? Were you able to go back and were able to watch this game on Thanksgiving?
Yeah, it's I keep thinking that. Oh, okay. Hold on.
You're good.
There we go.
You started to move.
You're ever so slightly frozen.
Okay. All right. Yeah. Okay. So it's like you said, the Lions offensive line is just getting demolished week by week. I really thought with them being a run first team, they could make up for stuff like that. But against this Packers D line, they just flat out struggled. Michael Parsons had a game. Deontay Wyatt ended up going down. I want to say it was second or third quarter, and the Packers didn't skip a beat, which is kind of really scary to think about, considering that he was, I think that he's probably one of their better defensive tackles. So, and like you guys said, on the perimeter, the Lions secondary had no answer for any of their receivers, whether it was Dontavian Wicks, whether it was Christian Watson, whether it was, Romeo Doubs. It's, it just kind of seems like injuries, are just kind of getting to the Lions here for a second year in a row. So you don't want to speculate about training staffs, but it just kind of makes you think, did they not prepare for any kind of depth at offensive line or in their secondary? Because it really doesn't look like it. The only time, in my opinion, that their secondary has played well all year was against the Browns. And, the Browns at the time had one of the worst offenses in general. So, yeah, it's really disappointing out of the Lions, but a great win for the Packers, a team that was starting to hear a little bit of outside noise regarding their coach, starting to kind of get some negativity inside the building. So it was a good win for them, but obviously a very disappointing loss for the Lions.
It's a big flip-flop from last year in the NFC North that's happening here. I am an avid Packers hater, and that should be very apparent to everybody. They have a good record right now. They aren't impressing me with a lot of what they're doing, but they are still winning these games. It's important. We actually talked about it a little bit before the show started, but this Lions team, you bring up the injuries, a big problem with their team is that defense last year was atrocious. They lost everybody, it seemed like, of importance. And now you're starting to see more players kind of drop off, and they didn't really supplement well enough in the offseason to make up for some of those shortcomings. Frank Ragnow was a huge piece in the center of that offensive line. The news is broken that he's coming back. He's making his triumphant return. And then the team put out today, he failed his physical. He's got a terrible hamstring strain. He's not going to be playing for us. Like it was a very high and then a very low. And that's kind of what happens when you take some time away from football and you're not staying in football shape. It's a nice wish that he would be able to come back and play, but obviously that's not going to happen. You have Amon-Ra go down in this game. It's easy to have hindsight being 2020, but it doesn't look like they followed through enough with some of their weaknesses in bolstering specifically that defense and the secondary, which is kind of getting tore up right now in order to make up for some of these injuries and the weaknesses that they had last year. And it's dropped them now, to the third spot in the NFC North.
Yeah, the Lions are in danger now, I think, of missing the playoffs. Like, this was something that you talked about at the beginning of the year, Evo, that you thought that they might miss the playoffs. I thought, once they kind of made that transition, Dan Campbell calling plays, they looked a little bit better, looked a little more explosive. But this team is just wrought with injury again, and they have not been as consistent on offense without Ben Johnson. That's just flat out the way it's been. Jahmyr Gibbs is incredible, explosive on any given play. He could take it to the house, but week in and week out, they are not nearly as consistent without Ben Johnson.
Yeah. Lions are in that 8th seed right now as of their current record at 7-5. So they're the outside looking in. Anything could happen. I still, and we'll talk about the Bears here shortly. I still think the Bears are maybe not as good as their record suggests, though this last game proved a lot more to me about this team. But with that, we can move on to our next game. We have the Kansas City Chiefs going into Dallas versus the Cowboys, and the sunlight couldn't stop them. They get the win, 31-28. Chiefs all upset about all the terrible ref calls and stuff like that. Terrible officiating. Sucks. It sucks, man. But Cowboys get the win here. Another really good performance from Dak Prescott. Another good performance from that wide receiver core there for Dallas. George Pickens and CeeDee Lamb look to be like the real deal. Pickens is going to get fucking paid. I don't know how they're going to be able to keep him around. But a good matchup here and a close one. Keeping it close is nice, especially when you're not super invested in either of the teams that you're watching on a Thanksgiving Day game. To actually see a good offensive shootout like we saw is pretty fun.
Yeah, this game was actually fun to watch because the night game was not fun to watch. It was a fucking ass whooping. But Cowboys, we kind of talked about it. They are still kind of fighting around in that ability to make the playoffs as well. That tie could be really crucial to them at the end of the season. That might be the difference between them getting in and not getting in, between maybe them and the Lions even. So they are playing much better football because that D-line, we had a lot of questions like, okay, you lose Micah, what are you going to do? Their interior has been really fucking good, and it has made a massive difference. We've seen that pay dividends here in Cleveland, adding interior defensive line to help the pass rush. So this is a great win for the Cowboys. Chiefs are in danger of missing the playoffs. Like, no doubt at this point. They are 6-6. They are going to have to win out, I think, to make the playoffs because the AFC is fucking gnarly.
Yeah,
Matt,
Chiefs in the ninth slot.
Well, so from the Cowboys perspective, I think Jerry Jones might be the best and worst GM in the league because, you know, he makes bonehead decisions. Like, for example, the whole sunlight controversy. I don't know what it is, but you know that you're playing a majority of your games in the afternoon. And for whatever reason, he just doesn't want to acknowledge that the sun is blinding their own team at times. And then, you know, the whole thing of like not paying Micah early, and then you have the drama carrying into camp, and then you end up having to dump him off, you know, for 2 late first round picks. But on the flip side, he did end up improving the team through the trade, you know, because he ended up with Kenny Clark and Keenan Williams. So he now has 2 top, I would say Kenny Clark is more like top 15, top 20. But Keenan Williams is one of the best defensive tackles in the league. And you can see the impact that has on a defense because a lot of the, you know, defensive ends are making plays on the outside simply because Keenan Allen is just flat out pushing the pocket backwards. And then he got George Pickens for chips. I don't understand that from a Pittsburgh perspective because you know, you knew that you needed another wide receiver. You know, guys like Calvin Austin, you know, Roman Wilson certainly wasn't coming along. So you know, to grab him for only, I believe it was only like a 3rd and a 5th, maybe. But that trade just looks like absolutely bonkers. Now they're going to have to figure out how to pay him, and Jerry Jones isn't great at paying players. I mean, we've seen it, you know, fumbled around with Dak's contract, Zeke's contract, now the whole Micah thing where, again, he could have paid him years ago. But yeah, it was really crazy to kind of see this unfold over a season because, you know, you have the bonehead decisions, and then you have the great decisions that he's made, you know, over the past couple weeks. And then for the Chiefs, it's kind of mind boggling because I don't know if Patrick Mahomes has certainly lost it, but if you look at it, you know, the things that made him successful back in like, you know, the 2018, 2019, you know, kind of era, he no longer has. So he no longer has a consistent yak and deep threat. I mean, Xavier Worthy's great, but, you know, he's no Tyreek Hill. Travis Kelce has taken a step back, so he doesn't really have that zone beater in the middle of the field that just finds open space and catches the football. Rashid Rice is great, you know, but he's also not that kind of guy. He's the wide receiver 1. He has to drive the passing offense. He can't be just sitting in the middle of the field all the time. And then looking at it, I mean, they're treating Kareem, and I love Kareem Hunt. I really do.
Oh,
you know,
sure.
he still very much has talent in this league, but he can't be your running back 1. I mean, come on, man. Like you have to give Patrick Mahomes, you know, some kind of running game, because if you don't, then the pressure gets on. And I mean, 3 sacks, you know, for Patrick Mahomes, and I don't know what he's looking like this year in terms of how many sacks that he's taken, but you know, he's trying to make plays and hold on to the football, and it's just flat out not working. You know, so the fact that Andy Reid hasn't figured it out and tried to some kind of extension of the run game, it's kind of mind boggling because he's one of the smartest coaches in the league, but yet he now has a pass first offense, and we're seeing what that does even with one of the best quarterbacks that we've seen in this generation.
Yeah, I absolutely agree, Mac. You would think that this team could figure out something, but Travis Kelce taking a step back has been pretty detrimental. That was a guy that you could count on Yak as well. Obviously, he's going to get open in the middle, but he was a guy that made things happen after. They don't have a lot of that anymore unless they get a guy on the edge and there's nobody fucking there. They have to scheme everything rather than somebody going out and winning.
That's been the biggest thing that I've been banging the table for with this team is that I think that they have a good complement of wide receivers. They don't have the same sort of explosive like they had before, but they have a good complement of receivers, but they don't have a threat of a real run game. Yeah, you start to add that in with a good running back and they have a solid offensive line. All of a sudden, they become way more versatile. Andy Reid can start scheming stuff up crazy again, and that offense goes right back to where it should be, which is why I think that this team next year could be very dangerous because I don't know how they're going to go into the offseason and not try to find themselves a good back.
Yeah, that's got to be priority number one if you're the Chiefs this year or into this offseason. But all right, man, we're going to head into the next game. An AFC North matchup. Bengals get the win 32-14 over the Ravens. Joe Burrow is back. I don't know what it is about it, but it feels like anytime a team loses a fumble out of the end zone that results in a touchback, that team loses. It's almost every time. It's just a complete momentum shift, momentum killer. And that's what it seemed like happened in this game. After that touchdown doesn't count and it goes out, Bengals kind of stepped on it, took over and controlled this game. And the AFC North is now, once again, wide open because Joe Burrow's back. They're only, 2 games out? The Ravens are 6-6. The Steelers are what? They're 6-5. 6-5
now.
Probably be 6-6 after this fucking week. So, this Browns division is still completely wide open and only 2 games out with this much time. The Bengals technically aren't out of it either. Now their defense is complete dog shit, but they showed up good enough in this game. The Bengals going to win and makes this division insane and honestly kind of embarrassing. Mac, what do you got?
I mean, I don't know what, it's so beyond, and I want to preface this in saying that it took me probably up until 2020, 2021 for me to really believe in Lamar Jackson. I really thought that he was one of those guys where he was only good because of his legs. And because of that,
same here, brother,
create passing opportunities, right? But we've seen him develop as a pocket passer these past couple of years. So for me, when he's coming out of this knee injury now, yes, his debut was against a very bad Miami team, and he threw 4 touchdowns, completed 78% of his passes, right? But since then, he's only thrown 1 touchdown and 3 interceptions the past 4 weeks. So it's kind of like, what's going on here? And we know that they can run the football. Derrick Henry is still very much in his prime, and he kind of solved that fumbling problem that he had early on in the season, and the Ravens defense can keep them in these games. But it just seems like Lamar just doesn't, I don't want to say that he's doesn't know what's going on, but he's not getting rid of the football, and he's not working within the offense, and he's acting like he's still 2018, 2019 Lamar. And it's just I'm kind of baffled. Usually you can look at the numbers and see, okay, he's deficient here, deficient there, but it almost just kind of seems like he doesn't trust what he's seeing. He doesn't he's just not confident on what's going on. And I mean, he still had some decent scrambles and getting himself out of trouble, but he's nowhere near the athlete he was before the injury. And I don't want to speculate on anything because I really don't know in terms of the knee injury that he had and how he's kind of, operating there. But it's the drop off is just so weird. And when he lined up against Cleveland, for that Sunday afternoon game, I was there and I just thought that oh, okay, the pass rush is just getting to him. Myles Garrett's having a game and, the defensive tackles are out there balling and, it's an AFC North game. That's why Lamar is struggling so bad. But we've now seen him do that and struggle against the Jets and against the Cincinnati Bengals team that, people were putting 40 points on. So so where is Lamar Jackson? Because he just doesn't look like the same guy.
That's exactly what I was going to bring up, is that it has been like one of the worst stretches of his career. He does not look like the quarterback that was right there neck and neck, possibly deserving of the MVP last year. And I don't know if maybe the league has figured out Todd Monken's offense or something like that, but I feel like the receiving comment that they had before was gadgety with safety nets like Mark Andrews, and maybe he doesn't trust Mark Andrews anymore. You see him miss wide open Mark Andrews, not even look at him on some of these throws. But the heart and soul of this team is Lamar Jackson, and a lot of that is his legs setting up those passes because he's such a threat. And I think that the fact that he is not running around like he was last year and the years before, teams are not paying as much credit to it. And so they're able to play better coverage. Makes the game a lot more difficult when you take away that threat. And maybe it is partially because of that injury. Maybe he's not as mobile as he was and not able to bring that threat to bear. It is very interesting to kind of see the precipitous fall off. You expected against a wet paper bag defense like this Bengals team that he would be able to get something going. And it really just was dysfunctional all the way through.
Yeah. I don't know how they recover. Like, I had this Ravens team at the beginning of the year. I had them projected to be incredible. 16-1 record. It's like, this team is supposed to be just way better. They had figured out what was wrong on defense last year. Kyle Hamilton moving in lower into the box and revolutionized what they were going to do, right? Well, I don't know where all of it has gone, but there's been a ton of regression from the offense to the defense, injuries. They got guys back, but there is a disconnect that is, this team is, none of these teams from the AFC North right now look like playoff teams. Whoever wins this division looks like it's going to be a one and done. They will show up, get their ass beat, and then we'll move on. This division is in need of a reset. And I know the Browns are going to be, with a lot more picks than the other people in the division. Will be interesting to see how this thing shakes out in the next year or two. But let's move into our Black Friday game. We had the Bears get a big time dub, moving them to 9-3 over the Eagles, who fall to 8-4, 24-15. Evo, Bears in your division, they look fucking like they might be a legit team. Because here's the thing, Caleb Williams, I don't know that he's the guy. There are times where he looks incredible, and there are times where he looks like he has absolutely no idea what he is doing. Getting very similar vibes to, oh my God, what's the kid with the long hair in Jacksonville? I just forgot his name.
Trevor Lawrence.
Trevor Lawrence. Like those ups, downs, crazy swings. Like it's insane. But the Bears can run the ball. They're playing pretty damn good defense. There is a solid squad around Caleb Williams that is allowing him to continue to make mistakes and still get wins. Where are you at? How is this team legit? They're starting to change your mind a little bit.
Yeah, but I still think that they are not as good as the record necessarily suggests. But credit where credit is due. Ben Johnson has really turned things around here from a culture perspective. He has fixed a lot of those issues that we saw from Caleb, specifically the holding on to the ball too long and taking the sacks. We've really seen those go away this year. This wasn't a special game from Caleb. I mean, 154 yards, a touchdown, and an interception is not that special. What was special was that run game, and they do really have a guy there in Monangai. And he couples extremely well with Swift. You're able to put up over 250 yards rushing between those two guys, and that's very impressive. And it looks very similar to what was being done out there in Detroit. Now, I'm not saying Caleb Williams is not Goff. Definitely not by this point. He's a very different style of quarterback, but it is also his second year. And I kind of preach this whole, you got to take time on these young guys. Caleb Williams went an entire year without any sort of a semblance of a professional coach, like mentoring him, or so it seems if you believe all the reports. And so he actually has someone who is mentoring him, and we're seeing the growth that he should be having here in year two. And so the sky potentially could be the limit because we've seen all the physical talents from, we saw what he did in college and how he was a magic man, things like that. And it's working for him. And then that defense, while they are I would say subpar defense. They do get those big game-changing plays. The turnovers this year have been incredible for them, and turnovers kill the other team. We start talking about you have one, two, once you get to 3 turnovers in a game, no team wins those games. For the most part, no team will win a game after multiple turnovers. And that's what this Bears team has been able to do kind of all year. And then they're able to go into this game, pick off Jalen Hurts. And you're talking about an offense that, despite having all sorts of weapons in Philadelphia, does not seem to understand how to utilize them this year in an efficient fashion. You see it week in and week out from A.J. Brown, I'm not getting enough yards. You have Saquon Barkley saying it a lot nicer, being like, I haven't been involved this year and I need to get more involved. And he's putting on himself, but you know that he probably feels like I'm not who I was last year. And whether it's the scheme or me or whatever it is, team's keen on me, they know that they've got all these pieces. Devonta Smith is fantastic, and he only got 48 yards in this game. We know that Philly defense can be good, but it just feels like that offense, despite having all of the pieces there to bake a really good cake, they keep fucking up the ratios, and they're not getting anything pretty coming out of it. Which is why, again, all credit to last year's Super Bowl champs and their record being 8-4, but they don't scare me in the NFC right now because too many teams are playing them very close. They're keeping all these opponents within striking distance, even on their wins. And so this was a huge win for the Bears, huge morale boost. Loved the locker room afterwards, and Ben Johnson ripping the tarp off, getting crazy with the boys. It's scary going forward for the NFC North and the rest of the teams there because you do have a Dan Campbell-led Lions team that is now going to always be competitive. You've got a steady Eddie Packers team that is always going to be good, maybe not great, but good. And you have a Bears team that is ascending and putting a lot of this young talent to work.
Yeah, absolutely. Like first of all, the cake analogy had me because I was like, cake. I'm hungry. But man, that was that perfect way to describe what is happening kind of with that offense. Mac, what do you got, man?
Well, first, I just want to say, hey, Philly fans, this is what you get. Because for the past several years, they've complained, about Sirianni and how he's not a good enough coach. And they've complained about their offense and all this stuff. And it's just like, okay, you really want to see a bad team? Well, that's what you got on Friday. And I've never seen such a talented roster go to waste offensively. And it's not just one guy, because the offensive coordinator, he's not been doing a great job this year, but neither has Jalen Hurts. You have Saquon Barkley, who was the best NFL player in the league last year. And for whatever reason, both his yards averaged and his yards per carry are cut in half comparing last year to this year. Right. And they have everything that they need. Now, offensive line's a little bit banged up, but that's no excuse for just the absolute, like it was so unbelievably frustrating to watch that game. So I can only imagine how the Philly fans feel, but that's what they get for complaining for the past couple of years. Because as a Browns fan, when you see your team go to Super Bowls every other year, and win championships right in front of your eyes, and you're still crying midseason, well, you want to see some bad football, that's what you're going to get. Now, in terms of the Bears, you guys touched on it perfectly. They're literally almost exactly like the Lions. I mean, like you said, Caleb Williams plays a little bit more, improvised ball than Jared Goff, right? But it's the same kind of setup. They have the 1-2 punch with Swift and Monangai, right? They have, the possession receiver with DJ Moore, kind of more of like an Amon-Ra St. Brown. Romeo Dunze isn't nearly as explosive as Jameson Williams, but, that's their big play guy. And then Colson Loveland, who has come along a little bit, is kind of like their Sam Laporta. So, it's the same kind of team. Now, the only thing that has me kind of thinking down the line here, I don't know if they're going to be able to hold up their kind of defense, because it's a bend, don't break, right? They're currently leading the league in turnovers, and they're coming in bunches too. I mean, they have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 games with 3 turnovers or more on defense, so I don't know if they can sustain that. But they do have some talent on that side of the ball. So I think they'll be frisky. I don't know if they're exactly Super Bowl contenders, but hell of a start for Ben Johnson, turning around that Bears team. That's really something to see. And like you said, taking the tarp off in the locker room, getting everybody all fired up. I mean, Bears fans, should be excited. They finally got a good, talented team going, and they're going to go on a run. How long is that run going to last? I don't know, but enjoy it while you can.
Absolutely, man. I mean, listen, my dad is a Bears fan. He has enjoyed watching the Bears this year. He has been trying to tell me that Caleb is a fourth quarter quarterback. And honestly, it's kind of been working out that way. But with that, gentlemen, that is a recap on all the football that has happened. We have got a lot of football to get to, though. But before we do that, I just want to say thank you to everybody who is tuning in right now. We have a bunch of you. We appreciate it very much. If you guys would not mind, please like, share, and subscribe. It would mean a great deal to us. You can check us out on YouTube, Facebook, X, TikTok. Yeah, if you can't handle the full version of this, don't worry, we give you bite-sized pieces over on our TikTok. Producer Amber does an excellent job. But thank you all for tuning in. It would mean a great deal if you guys would like and share with your friends. Evo, my man, are we ready to start diving into some gambling? Because I know I am. Halftime here at Ohio State, Michigan, getting ready to come up. Ohio State up 17-9 at the moment. Let's talk some NFL, brother.
Yeah, let's do it. So our first game of the day, we get all of our lines from FanDuel in the moment. So FanDuel has the LA Rams going into Carolina versus the Panthers. And the Panthers are home dogs, plus 10.5 points. You can drop those points for the Rams at minus 106 odds, over under of 45.5. Where are we going in this one, boys? I feel like it's pretty obvious because to me, the Rams are probably the best team in the NFC and one of the best teams in the NFL this year. I don't think they get talked about enough. So a double-digit spread makes a ton of sense to me here versus this Carolina Panthers team that seems to do really good versus the Falcons and not a ton else. That's where their offensive production comes from, is versus the Falcons. And then they have these weird weeks where, they go and they beat the Packers in Green Bay, but then games that you would think, all right, they got a chance here, they don't really show up. So we don't know exactly who this Panthers team is going to be week to week. They're playing a very good team here. Maybe they decide to play it to their opponent.
So, man, I'll go first here. The Rams are not, in my opinion, not only are they the best team in the NFC, they're the best team in football right now. They are so goddamn well coached. The Panthers, despite their record, I do not believe are anywhere near that good. Like you said, they don't show up or they beat the shit out of people that we don't think they should beat the shit out of. It's been a wild up and down year. However, in this, there's just so much talent compared from side to side. I think the Rams beat the shit out of the Panthers. I'm dropping the points. You know what? And I probably shouldn't. Over the weekend, not a great start for me, man. 1-3 to start. So that is tough. I should take an easy bet here. But I got to tell you, I do not think this Panthers team has a fucking snowball's chance in hell of keeping this thing close with the Rams. The Rams are a fucking wagon. Mac, what do you got?
I mean, minus 10.5. I feel like that was very generous by FanDuel. They took a Bucs team to the woodshed, last week, and it was to the point to where I felt like they almost felt bad for Tampa Bay because they almost punted the entire second half. It's just crazy to me because Matthew Stafford is entering his sage years, right? Where he's been in the NFL so long where you can't fool him. He's seen every single defense, and the arm is still very much elite. And it's wild to me because, we heard all these things the past couple of years about the elbow tendonitis and, his back, and he can't participate in training camp, but he's in the trainers, getting shots in his spine. And it's just, but Matthew Stafford is Matthew Stafford, and it's just crazy to see. It's awesome. But yeah, minus 10.5. I feel like that's generous and a typical easy bet here. I don't even see a backdoor cover. In it's just like I almost kind of feel bad for Carolina, but I don't, just simply because you know their best player on offense is Rico Dowdle, and for whatever reason they just didn't want to feed him last week. I don't understand what that's all about, but you know, hey, I'm not an NFL coach, so
hey, we have issues on the show with running back committees and the best players not getting the ball as much as they should, specifically with Seattle a lot of the times. But I agree with you there as far as the Dowdle line. I'm going Rams. I'm going on the money line for the same reason why Mike said we had a bad start to our gambling week on Thanksgiving and Black Friday, and we need to make sure to get some easy dubs. If you are making a parlay, I would not suggest doing the money line in this parlay because it's minus 700 odds to take the Rams, and that's going to completely tank that parlay. So don't do that. But if you're going for like a pick'em league or something like that, maybe lean on the Rams for this one.
Yeah, Rams feels like a good Survivor League pick this week. That's going to take us into our next game. We got the Cardinals going down to Tampa. Tampa favored in this one, minus 3.5, over under 44.5. Bucky Irving is going to be back. I think that is going to be a huge boon to that Bucs offense. But before I give my pick, Matt, where are you going in this one, man?
I'm going Tampa Bay money line. You know, I don't think it's going to be such a high-powered offense, just simply because with Baker's shoulder injury, I don't think he's going to be throwing a lot, and I think it's going to be more or less kind of a ground game. But I also think the defense is going to be a little bit fired up, you know, after getting the crap beaten out of them. So you know they should be able to get after a not so mobile quarterback in Jacoby Brissett. So, you know, I think it's going to be like one of those ugly, but they pull it away late kind of situations. So yeah, I'm going money line.
Evo.
Yeah, I like the Bucs to win this game, but I'm going to take the Cardinals plus the points here. And the big part of it is Baker in that injury. I think a lot of his magic might be in that non-throwing shoulder. And we saw the magic all earlier this year, and he was able to do crazy things. It's kind of waned off some, especially since the bye. I really like this Bucs team. You know, I was high on them at the beginning of the year, but I think that this one could be a little bit closer because we have seen the Cardinals go out there despite not having a running attack and put the ball in Jacoby Brissett's hands and make use of a really solid receiving core that was otherwise unused when Kyle was back there slinging the ball. And I think that he's going to be able to do that against the secondary. There are some weaknesses in the secondary for the Bucs that he could take advantage of. And look, I got Bucky on fantasy. I'm not starting him this week. I'm a little scared. I want to see him actually come back because you've seen Sean Tucker go out there and have good games. You've seen Rachaad White. Obviously, his snap count has increased since Bucky's been out. I'm concerned that they're going to use a lot more of a rotation in that backfield, and that scares me a little bit, especially from a fantasy perspective. And I think that could start to limit some of Bucky's actual on-field potential just because some of his snaps are going to be taken away. I think they're going to try to ease him back in because they were so gentle with him with the multiple injuries that he was sitting out for. So that concerns me a little bit. I would love to see Bucky go off in this game. I like Tampa Bay to win it, but I think that the Cardinals could keep it close. They've got a good defense there in Arizona. The offense, a little bit questionable, but I think that they could keep it within that 3 points. So if you're going to give me the hook, I'll take it.
Yeah, so I was contemplating this very much as well. I thought about going 3.5 just because the hook. I do think this game will be close, but I am going to go I'm following Mac here. I'm going Bucs on the money line. I think Bucky Irving, well, I agree with you from a fantasy perspective. He is probably not going to have a big workload, but Baker, we also know, is kind of banged up as well, that non-throwing shoulder. I think when they get into the red zone, of all the backs that they have, Bucky Irving is the guy they're gonna want to give the work down there. He's a bigger back. He's a guy that can do more. I also do more, I think, catching out of the backfield.
He's a tiny back.
He runs really fucking hard, dude.
He absolutely does. For his size, he runs between the tackles really well. You would think it'd be a Rachaad White type role, but yeah. I agree with you there. I was gonna say, but he's not a big dude. He's got big personality, I guess.
He is a bigger back than what they have. He would be their best goal line back. So I think that there's a chance that he could get in the end zone in this game because they're going to want to use him down there more, especially coming back from the injury. Maybe they won't use him a shitload throughout this game, but I think he will definitely have a role, especially in the red zone. So I'm going to go with the Bucs money line, and I feel good. Baker, if he can't play, if he doesn't stay in this game, Bucs money line has got no shot.
Yeah, it'll be tough if Teddy has to go back in. I love Teddy; he's my boy, but did not look good or prepared last week at all, and that would be really damning. All right, next up, we have the Jacksonville Jaguars going into Tennessee versus the Titans. Typically, most years, this is one of those toilet bowl type of games. No one wants to watch it. And we're close to that this year because the Titans are really terrible and Jacksonville Jaguars like to play terrible sometimes. And then the past couple of weeks, they've played pretty decent like they did at the beginning of the year. Either way, Jacksonville is favorited as the road team in this game, -6.5 at -104 odds, over under of 41.5. Do we think the Titans have a chance at home to keep this one within almost that touchdown range?
No, maybe, because here's the thing, man. It's the Titans are an up and down team. They've been getting better, right? But the Jags are one of those up and down teams as well. I already alluded to it. Trevor Lawrence, I have no idea what I'm going to get from play to play, from drive to drive. Like, you have no idea what is going to happen. So I think the Jags will win this. I think the Jags are a better team. Well, we've talked about it all year, Evo. The Titans just are bereft of offensive weapons to help out their young quarterback.
They put up 24 on a really good Seahawks team last week.
I understand.
That fucked you on your bet.
Yeah, that fucking garbage time touchdown is what fucked me on the bet, the backdoor cover. Because they had it. They had the fucking cover. But I'm not sold on this Titans team at all. So instead of dropping points, I would love for the Jags to lose this, and I would love to be wrong here because we have their pick. But I'm going Jags on the money line. It feels like the safest play here because I don't know what Trevor Lawrence is going to show up. He may be the guy that turns it over 3 times, and they only beat the Titans by 3.
Yeah. Mac, where are you going in this one? Who do you think is going to take the dub?
You know what? I'm just going to go, and I know this is a little bit unconventional, but I'm going to go over 41.5 points. I'm going to be honest with you. I look at these two teams and I don't know what to make of it. Because the Jags earlier in the season, like when they beat Kansas City, I'm sitting there thinking to myself, you know what? Maybe Trevor Lawrence has turned the corner, but what has he shown you the past couple of weeks? And like, yes, their run defense is great, but their secondary is garbage, and I find it hilarious because when the Browns originally traded Greg Newsome and we got Tyson Campbell, everybody was just like, what is this? I can't believe this trade. But the Browns have straight up robbed the Jaguars blind in 2 trades, both in the draft and then getting Tyson Campbell. So I have no idea what to make of this. For me, this is the toilet bowl game of the week. I mean, take out the 7-4 record, and the Jaguars have just like how you guys said, very inconsistent. I don't know what to make of it. They don't have an identity whatsoever. So it's hard for me to sway, one way or the other. Cam Ward's been playing better, over the past couple of weeks, but he still has no one on the supporting cast, especially with Calvin Ridley out. So, I think it's going to be one of those games to where like anything could happen. This is the same Jaguars team that fumbled away a game against Davis Mills late, and this is, a division game. So anything could really happen. So I'm just taking the only thing that I know for sure is going to happen, and we're going to see bad defense. So I'm taking the over.
All righty. I'm going to go with Jacksonville on the money line because I think if I have to just 2 teams, which team is better, I think it's Jacksonville. But this is absolutely trap game territory for Jacksonville because everyone probably looks at this Titans team at 1-10, 1-11, whatever they are, and they think of them as a joke. Because I sure do. Like, they don't look good right now. They have so many holes. They need at least another 2 years of rebuild to really be competitive. That being said, I do think Seattle took their foot completely off the gas in the second half last week, and that's why they were able to put up the points that they did. I don't expect Jacksonville to take their foot off the gas, but we know that the Titans, if the stars align, can put up at least that 20 points, which is why I kind of like Max over here, because we're talking about each team has to put up basically 20 points. One of them has to do 20 in a field goal or something, and you're hitting there. And I think that's absolutely possible with how bad this Titans defense is. And yes, the Jags defense, that secondary is a little bit weaker. And it really goes to show you what a change of scenery does with that trade. Newsome looked like a solid cornerback, but now he's just kind of in garbage there. And Tyson Campbell is absolutely good for your Browns. I think that's kind of what might need to happen with Trevor Lawrence is he needs to have a Sam Darnold arc. He needs to go somewhere else where things need to continue to fail here in Jacksonville. They need to move on, and then he will have a reclamation project somewhere. Because I think that he's very physically talented. He's a very talented quarterback. There's a reason why he was the number 1 overall pick. It just has not worked out there in Jacksonville, and a change of scenery I think could do him a lot of good. But I will go with just the simple Jacksonville on the money line. I need to get back on the horse after what the 4 games that we saw early in the week. So I feel like that's my safest, highest probability hit there.
That makes sense to me, man. I hope that Tennessee plays a decent game because it would be cool. For me, if the Jags lose, that's great. And I would love to see Cam Ward show some progress. When it comes down to the gamble, I agree with you, man. Money line's the right way to go. But that takes us to our next game, which I think is the toilet bowl game of the week. We got the Saints going down to Miami. Miami favored -5.5, over under 42.5 points. I can't stand the Saints team. I am interested to see what Tyler Shuck looks like. Let's see it. Maybe he'll throw it 65 times in this game. I wonder what that offense is going to look like because Alvin Kamara, I don't believe, is going to be playing in this game. So they don't have any offensive weapons. They're going to put it all on Shuck. And we saw what happened when they put it all on Shuck before. Listen, he's going to put up some bulk stats. But you are not going to win games with Tyler Shuck. Mac, if you are not aware, I am an avid anti-Shucker. He is not a quarterback that I wanted anywhere near the fucking Cleveland Browns organization.
Such a slur.
I thought that was pretty good, but I'm not in on the Saints. Guys, where are you at? Evo, I'll let you go first.
What do you mean they don't have offensive weapons? They have Devin Neal. They've got Juwan Johnson. They got Chris Olave. It is basically a really bad NFL offensive team, but they got playmakers there. Look, Miami has been on a little bit of a roll. They just went on bye week so that way their players can be like, hey, we can pretend that we're on a boat or a yacht somewhere. Maybe they were. I don't know. Maybe they were chilling a little bit. But things have turned around a little bit there in Miami. I love to trash the Dolphins. I thought they were going to be the worst team in the NFL this year, and they're still vying for it to an extent, but they have had a good past couple of weeks. We've seen their offense come alive a little bit more. Ashane get a little bit more involved. Tua has set the CTE aside for a little bit and has still been throwing a whole bunch of touchdowns, which is what he's known for. I'm going to take Miami here in this game on the money line. I think that they absolutely should win. I can't ever bring myself to drop points with Miami anymore, but at -5.5, that's absolutely doable versus this Saints team, which is, again, in that active tank mode. It's relatively obvious. They're not as morally fun to watch in tank mode as like the Giants, because we'll get to the Giants, but like Jameis Winston is the most fun, morally correct way to tank. Like, absolutely. It makes all the games entertaining. You're going to lose probably, but like it's a damn fun watch. That's a good tank. Not like the Saints. It just kind of feels like we're going to throw shit at the wall and we know it's not going to go well, but at least we're fielding the team, kind of. So I'll take Miami on the money line, though dropping the points here shouldn't be a far shot from doable.
Agreed. Mac, where you at?
So I know the Miami Dolphins are going to win this game. The only problem is I look at New Orleans and I know that they're going to abandon the run and it's going to be a shuck chuck most of the game. So I'm a little bit kind of standoffish. I think that there might be a backdoor cover. So I'm going to take Miami Dolphins money line here. Just looking at it from like a macro perspective, the Miami Dolphins have rushed for over 160 yards the past 2 games. And they're kind of like that team that, they know that they're not going to be competitive this year, but for whatever reason, they've all kind of like come together and kind of looked at each other and saying, hey, we don't want to completely blow this whole thing up. So why don't we just be competitive the rest of the year? So I think that they hand them a solid loss, them being New Orleans. But again, I think that there's going to be a backdoor cover happen. I think, if you make Tyler Shuck throw 45 times, yeah, you're probably going to get 2 or 3 interceptions, but you're probably going to get a late BS garbage time touchdown. So I'm kind of nervous with the points there. I think, I think it's going to be a Miami Dolphins money line type situation.
Yeah, guys, go ahead.
Is this like the dog shit employee type of team here where it's like, I need to do the bare minimum because I got a good thing going here. I'm getting paid okay. I have a nice view out my window. I'm going to do the bare minimum. And we can't have our boss get fired because then things can fucking go crazy. So we have to do just enough to like stay afloat and have the ownership keep this guy here maybe to continue on this little bit of a vacation that we call work where we're getting paid millions of dollars to live in Miami and fucking party all the time. Like maybe that's what's going on. The team had another secret team meeting, players only. And we're like, come on, dudes. Like we have it pretty good here. Let's do a little something. Not have our boss get fired, and we can continue this party next year.
Call me crazy, but I'd love to hear you guys' perspective on this. But when I look at this Miami Dolphins team, I really do think the problem is Tua, and I think the players and coaches know that it's Tua. So if they keep rattling off wins like this with Tua playing average, I think that they could get themselves into kind of talking and saying, hey, if we made an upgrade at quarterback, we have Devon A-Chain who is playing like a top 10 running back this year, both in rushing and receiving, and then like Tyreek Hill might not be the same guy, but he's still, going to be an above average receiver coming back. Jalen Waddle's looking pretty good. So, I think it's one of those, just like how you said, situation where it's a good gig and they're trying not to have this whole thing blow up because, let's be honest. If you're a non-star player on one of these teams and the roster gets blown up, are you really getting a solid second chance? So I don't know. It's just, I look at this and I say, they'd probably be a hell of a lot better team if they didn't have, a guy like Tua who, and you're playing in the AFC East, so you got to play in Buffalo. You got to play, at New York, or I'm sorry, New Jersey. Don't even get me started on that thing. But you got to play in New England. So I think if they upgraded their quarterback, they'd be in a hell of a lot better spot. And I can't imagine Tua is perceived well in the locker room, especially with how much of an ass he's acted like in these press conferences. It's kind of crazy. So, I think, and it sounds stupid when I say it out loud, but it almost feels like they're winning in spite of Tua because they want to send a message saying, hey, we're not a bad team. We just have a bad quarterback.
It's a two-headed monster to me. But I still put like 75% of the problems on Tua because you bring up Tua being the problem. Absolutely 100% agree. I think that he has, some talent, but I do not think that he is a great quarterback, nor do I think that he's a leader of men. And that's the other problem is leadership there. I like Mike McDaniels. I don't think that he is a good fit for a head coach. He's a schematic genius with stuff, but he's not someone that the players necessarily go in and respect. It's like the guy's trying to be your brother rather than your dad type situation and laying down the law. This is supposed to be your boss, not necessarily your friend. You can have a little bit of that, but at the end of the day, you need to know who's in charge. And the quarterback is the other part of that leadership. And I don't think that Tua has any control leadership-wise, nor do I think that he is the guy to lead an NFL franchise from a skill perspective at this point. Same sort of stuff that you kind of see, I think, in Arizona with Kyler. Like, he's got talent, but I don't think that he's a leader. I don't think the guys look at him as being a leader. And I don't think that he's going to ultimately be able to win that franchise a championship despite the talent that he might have. So, yeah, like I do think that the best move for the Dolphins is to move on from Mike McDaniels, and that will ultimately cause them to move on from Tua.
Yeah, I agree. And just to make it official, I'm also taking the Dolphins on the money line, even though I agree with everything that we just said. Tua is the problem. I think Mike McDaniels is a very good coach schematically on the offensive side of the ball. I don't know that he's the guy that leads an NFL franchise week in and week out and does all the right things all the time. I think that maybe he gets there, but listen, he's still very interesting character. He's aloof, and you don't really see that necessarily from NFL head coaches. Not really successful ones, anyways.
One of the biggest fuck ups that Miami had was getting rid of Brian Flores. Brian Flores didn't fit with that Miami culture, the fun stuff. He's more militaristic. Tua didn't like having him there as the head coach because he was too mean. Like, that's not the guy I want as my quarterback if he's like, the coach is a dick to me. Well, maybe you need someone to be a dick to you because you're not the leader. So this guy's going to step up and be the leader. Sorry to crash your party. Like, Flores is the type of guy that could take this team to a correct level. And he was doing that there in Miami. It just not good GM-manship and they weren't getting the correct players in there necessarily, but Flores was running a good team and they fucked that up. Like, as much as, again, I think Mike McDaniels is a great schematic guy. He would have been like, if Flores was there with McDaniels as that OC, I think the world of this team, especially if they're able to move off from Tua and get someone who's not a little bitch. Excuse my language.
Yeah, no, it's completely understood, and I agree, man. Flores, there was a war that happened. Tua won the war, and Miami lost by getting rid of Flores, in my opinion. But, brother, with that, we'll move on to our next game. And our next game is a banger. Mac, you'll be at the game. We got the Browns hosting the 49ers. 49ers, our favorite Browns, home dogs. They are getting 5.5 points, over under of 35.5. Very low scoring. Two really good defenses. Weather conditions expected to be suboptimal. I cannot wait to go out there and film part of my documentary in it tomorrow. But there's going to be a badass game. Mac, go ahead, brother. What you got?
So I just want to say that I'm taking 49ers money line, especially with the weather conditions. I'm looking at Quinshon Junkett's numbers the past couple weeks, and this is ever since week 6 against Miami, 9 for 19, 22 for 75, 17 for 59. And then last week, 16 for 47, 2 TDs. You got a really good 49ers team coming to town. So 49ers should beat them heavily. I have a lot of belief in these Niners teams. I thought that Brock Purdy played very well, in that Monday night game. I think the interceptions were flukes. I'm very believing in Brock Purdy, post-injury. I think he looks exactly like himself. He's not hobbled at all. So I'm taking 49ers money line, and you could take that to the bank.
Hell yeah, I like it, Mac. What do you got?
Hey, the weather report is a good thing to know for this game, and it probably tells a big part of the story as to why this over-under is so low at 35.5. That coupled with the fact that your Browns defense is really fucking good. I think that, just like Max said, that the last week was a little bit fluky there for the 49ers. I think that you will see a little bit more of a return to the norm, despite the fact that they're going up against a really good defense. And I'm interested to see how Shadur goes out there and plays against a better defense than he did last week versus the Raiders. Because I thought that he looked all right. I don't think he looked gangbusters or anything like that, but it was definitely a solid outing. And you need to start to stack those on top of one another and see some growth. Hopefully, we don't see too much of a regression. Hopefully, the weather doesn't affect him too much and that he's used to acclimate weather from Colorado and everything like that. I still think that this is a very low over-under. So I'm going over 35.5 in this one. I think that's absolutely doable. I think both teams can get right around that 20 mark again. So I'm going to be going over 35.5 points in this game. I would like to see your Browns go out there and get a win, though, just to keep that AFC North interesting.
If we win this game and we are somehow still fighting for a chance at the division, I will fucking lose my mind. But when you're talking about over-unders of 35.5 and you're giving 5.5 points, it's really hard to turn that down. When you look at a Browns defense that has been so good, they have been good against everybody that they have run into. Myles Garrett is on pace to shatter the sack record. Now, in this game, I don't know that we're going to see that Myles Garrett, and it's not because of Myles. It's because of the game planning that I expect to see. We're going to get hard run action right at at Myles Garrett, play action off. So this game is going to have to be a big, Isaiah McGuire, Alex Wright game, because Alex Wright should be back, I believe, this week. Is that right, Mac? We're getting Alex Wright back?
So I the last time that I looked at it, Alex Wright is still out with that quad injury. And then Jerome Ford is questionable, and I'm trying to think who is the other person. Yeah. So Alex Wright is ruled out.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay. So it's going to be a big Isaiah McGuire game. He's going to have to stay home, and then he
don't even get me started on that.
Okay, he's going to have to stay home, and then he's going to be able to generate some pressure because we're going to get run action right at Myles, so they can chip Myles, because that is what I expect to happen. Because this offense has to run away; they have to move away from him. He right now is the most dominant player in the entire NFL, regardless of position. Myles Garrett is the best player in the NFL right now. So if our defense can show up and keep this thing low scoring, I think Shedeur can do enough to keep it close. I don't know if we can win this game. I would love to think that we can, especially if we have an offense that has the potential to create explosive plays that we have not seen until last week when Shedeur played. So I'm taking the Browns and I'm taking the points. I would love to see my team get a win here. But I think that with that defense, as good as it is, and I already said it last week, and I'll echo it here while we have Mac here, the Browns have the best defensive line in all of football. I think we can keep this thing close. Browns plus 5.5.
Yeah, and I'm glad that you touched on Isaiah McGuire, because that is the tail of the tape for this kid this season. It is just contain and staying home. I mean, in the Packers game alone, he gave up 3 first downs to Jordan Love just simply off of boots and runs. So I fully expect Kyle Shanahan to attack the hell out of him at the perimeter. So, I'm talking boots. I'm talking misdirections. I'm sure that we're probably going to see a few tosses out his way, where a fake handoff and then a pitch outside. So that's probably the one part that worries me. But in terms of the rest of the defensive line, I think it's going to be crazy. And this is with Aiden Huntington and Alex Wright being out. So they're not going to be at full strength here. But Malik Collins is coming off of, the best game of his, of his season last week. You have Mike Hall coming along where he's starting to look like himself again. And then, of course, Mason Graham starting to pick up a little bit of speed. So I think that the defensive line, especially defensive tackle, has an opportunity to eat, and they should, because, looking at this 49ers offense, it's Christian McCaffrey and then compliments on top of that. And this isn't a shot at, the George Kittle or Kendrick Bourne. Or I'm trying to think of the other wide receiver.
Certainly not Brandon Ayuk.
But certainly not Brandon Ayuk. But that's the one I was looking for, Jennings. Christian McCaffrey to be doing the stuff at 29 to lead the entire league in touches is pretty nuts. I'm very much looking forward to this matchup, because you have the best D-line in the league, against probably the best weapon in the league currently. So, I think it's definitely going to be a close game.
I hope it is, man. I hope it is a banger of a game. Listen, honestly, if we could end up maybe with a blowout for the Browns, that'd be cool too. When's the last time we've seen one of those?
No, I was there for against Miami.
Okay, yeah, that's right. I was there for I was on screen. I did the movie quotes and got tickets to the next game.
Oh, dude, that's sick. Yeah, no, I was there with my little with my little windbreaker on, keeping myself as dry as I humanly could. But yeah,
I wore swim trunks because I fucking knew I was getting wet.
I love that.
Nice. All right, next up we got the Atlanta Falcons going into New York or New Jersey versus the Jets. Jets are home dogs, plus 2.5 points, minus 104 odds, or you can drop those 2.5 for the Kirko Chains led Atlanta Falcons at minus 118 odds. Over under of 38.5, another low scoring expectation here for this game. And it makes a little bit of sense, except for the Jets aren't playing Justin Fields at quarterback. Keep that in mind, ladies and gentlemen. And yes, Kirko Chains is out there for Atlanta, but he can still throw the ball a little bit, and they do have Bijan Robinson there. Bijan's got to get back to doing Bijan things here sooner or later. So, boys, where are we going at in this one?
Matt, go ahead, brother.
I'm taking Atlanta Falcons money line. Both these teams are an absolute mess, and I don't trust either one of them. I think it's going to look a little bit better for the Jets with Tyrod Taylor under center, because he's a little bit better of a thrower of the football than Fields. But on the other side, you have Kirk Cousins, who's washed, but like still has some of it. So I think it's going to be one of those where it's just an ugly, close game. I don't even trust the points here because Lord knows what's going to happen. You got the Falcons playing outside. So I don't think that they're that high powered, but I think they sneak away late. But again, I mean, the only thing that I can trust here is the Jets continuing to tank, and Kirk Cousins proving some kind of worth, in the NFL. So,
yeah. Listen, I've been doing this all year and I ain't about to stop now. The Atlanta Falcons suck dick. They're fucking awful. I have no idea what the team is going to be. And you know what? Kirk Cousins doesn't know what the fuck is going to happen from week to week. He still doesn't know what the hell he's doing with this offense. And the Jets, I know they're not great. I know they're not. But I know they're playing hard for their coach still. I do not have any faith whatsoever in this Falcons team, even though they have the best player on the field in this game in Bijan Robinson. I don't think it's going to matter. I'm taking the Jets plus 2.5 points. If the Falcons do win this thing, I do not think that will blow them out. I think it will be close and in a low-scoring game, sub 40 points expected. Give me the points. Jets plus 2.5.
All right. I'm going to go with Atlanta on the money line in this one because I like Atlanta better, just purely roster to roster. I do like Bijan. Look, sooner or later, Bijan is going to get back to doing Bijan things that we saw earlier in the year. It's got to happen, right? Right? Please?
Right, maybe.
Fuck. And look, Drake London also going to be out in this game. That's a big shot for Kirk Cousins because as he works back into a starter role, he needs more safety net type of guys. I don't think Kyle Pitts is that for him, nor is necessarily Darnell Mooney. So I wish Drake London was out there. He's not. That's going to be tough. And then you have a guy who's kind of ascending, a player that I really liked in the draft this year, Azariah Thomas, who's out there playing cornerback a lot more for the Jets now because they don't have Sauce in New York anymore. I like Atlanta to win this game, just purely roster to roster. I like Atlanta better. Though I do see how this one could be a little bit closer. I feel like this over-under number 2, like we can see points come out from both these sides. I think right around that 20 mark for both teams is still makes a lot of sense here. So I would be leaning towards the over in this one. But I'm going to go with Atlanta on the money line. I feel like it's safest for me at this point.
That makes sense, man. Listen, I get it. I hate this Falcons team. I've been burying them all year. I'm going to keep going. However, Whoever hit me with Fat AJ McCarron, that shit was hilarious.
Yeah, absolutely.
that shit was gold. You got me good.
Absolutely. All right, next up we have the Houston Texans going into Indianapolis versus the Colts. Colts are home favorites, minus 3.5 points at minus 102 odds, over under a 44.5. And we just have injury news coming out of Indy. It's a bummer. Fractured fibula for Daniel Jones. He's going to keep on playing, but watching some of the video of him, he looks a lot more ginger on that leg in practice. You also have some news coming out this morning about Tyler Warren coming down with an illness. He's now questionable for this game, one of their big receiving options. And the Texans have one of the best, if not the best, overall defense in the league. They're putting up a hell of a year defensively. Will Anderson, Danielle Hunter, they are a force to be reckoned with on this defense. So it's going to be a very tough one for the Colts, who looked like one of the gems of the AFC this year. Are they going to be able to put up points against this vaunted defense?
Man, this is tough. I like this Colts team a lot. We have bragged and talked about this team, like how much they have surpassed our expectations. The offensive weapons have really kind of come to life with Daniel Jones pulling the trigger, which nobody thought was going to be the fucking case. And now, I think if you keep him in there, you're going to see a very neutered offense. Jonathan Taylor is going to have to be an absolute stud. And if teams know that Jonathan Taylor is going to be the whole offense, that's going to be a problem. We saw that with the Chiefs. Like, they just run blitz the entire time, and they were able to shut Jonathan Taylor down. If they are not able to work off of play action, it's tough for Daniel Jones. But if he's going to be working off of play action, that's more stress on that leg. This is a really, really tough spot. Houston, I'm not sure what we're going to get on offense. Davis Mills starting again, or we got CJ Stroud back?
CJ Stroud. Okay, so now we're going to have another quarterback. Mills was playing okay. Stroud was kind of having a mixed year again this year. And this is a really tough game to call. I think overall the Colts are better, so I'm going to go with them, but I would not be surprised to see the Texans come out with a win. So if somebody goes with and takes the points for the Texans, it completely makes sense to me. But I'm going to go Colts on the money line just because I feel like of how good they have been all year, they could get a win here. But they are fighting an uphill battle with Daniel Jones now having the broken leg, and they most certainly are not. They don't want to bring in Anthony Richardson and completely change the way this offense looks.
Yeah. So the only reason why I'm not taking the Texans points is just simply because of the odds. Plus 146 is a lot better than minus 120. I think this is going to be a blowout. I think we are currently witnessing the beginning of the downfall of the Indianapolis Colts. Now, I do not care about this. A lot of times reporters do like PR for the team, and it's clear with the news that's coming out. That's what a lot of people are doing for the Colts. Everybody saw the video. He can't put weight on his leg, and it's a fractured fibula. Like, I'm not a doctor. Okay. I went to business school, but I can tell you a fractured fibula is not a good thing for a quarterback that has to be mobile to play his game. Right. This Houston Texans D line put Josh Allen in hell, on that Thursday night game. And Josh Allen is one of the better mobile quarterbacks in the league. So now you're going up against a quarterback who's not a good pocket passer, right? He's more of a play action, more of a mobile, more of a, creative, so to speak, quarterback. And I think it's going to be one of those situations to where, and again, I mean, if he's got a fractured fibula and he takes 4 sacks in a game, I think more than likely he's going to come out of said game. And I really feel bad crapping on my dad's Fighting Irish, but Riley Leonard, he's a wing T quarterback at best. One of the only things that he knows how to do is run QB power. All right. You are not passing out of that offense with Riley Leonard. And I think it kind of goes back to the bad decision that the Colts had in terms of looking at this quarterback room, because was Daniel Jones a good signing? Yeah, I'd say so, but they didn't have a backup plan, and they should have known that Anthony Richardson couldn't be trusted in that backup role. And now they have no backup quarterback. So I think it's really going to be a blowout here. I think it's going to get nasty. The Houston Texans are the only team in the league with 2 guys with double-digit sacks, Danielle Hunter and Anderson. So, I'm taking the money line here. Houston Texans, I think it's going to be a blowout. I think Daniel Jones has an early exit because that leg's going to be bothering him. And to be honest, if you're starting to get down 2 or 3 scores, there's no point in having him in if you think that there's some odd reason he's going to survive the rest of the season. But a fractured fibia is a fractured fibia. Like, why? Like, it is I don't know. It's just kind of mind-boggling to me, right? Because how is not everybody looking around and just saying, okay, he's got a fracture in one of the bigger bones in his leg? Like, what are we mad? Are the team doctors just blatantly just not caring? What is going on here? And to your point, Mike, Jonathan Taylor last week against Kansas City, they limited him pretty bad. And I think that's what's going to happen. They're going to just dare Daniel Jones and say, hey, buddy, like, why don't you beat us? Because you're playing on one leg and we all know that you're not going to be able to do that. So give me Texans money line. It's going to be a blowout. It's going to be ugly. And welcome to the downfall of the Indianapolis Colts.
Our boy Torres is not going to love hearing that, but Evo, what do you got?
Yeah, it is scary for me as someone who has a lot of Colts players on my fantasy team right now, and it's been doing good things for me. I'm worried about the Colts team because, yes, Tyler Warren can take snaps behind center. We've seen him do it this year, but you brought Riley Leonard. It's wing T style quarterback. All you have is guys that are known for their running capability as backups. And that's pretty scary when you have a very good complement of offensive weapons. I see the same sort of thing happening with Jonathan Taylor, unfortunately. As good as he is, they're going to be able to start to focus on shutting Jonathan Taylor down and putting the pressure on the pass game. And I don't know how good that pass game is going to be with that sort of a pass rush that they have there in Houston. CJ Stroud coming back, it doesn't necessarily make me feel like super excited for the Houston offense any more than I was with Davis Mills in there, because Davis Mills was doing a solid job. And CJ Stroud has been doing okay behind one of the worst offensive lines in the NFL. I'm actually going to be going on the under in this game. 44.5 points, I'm going to go under. I think it's going to be the offenses not being able to get a whole lot going, because I think the Colts defense is pretty solid. They give up a lot of passing yards, so there's going to be possibility for CJ to kind of spread the ball out. But coming off of the injury, you might have a little bit of rust there. Maybe we see a little bit of a drop-off even passing-wise from what Davis Mills was putting up, because Davis Mills was doing a pretty solid job there as a backup quarterback. So I'm going to go with the under in this one. I'm scared for Indy's sake. A lot of what Mac was saying as far as the potential for their downfall, I think that is on the table. And especially if Tyler Warren isn't going to play tomorrow, which we don't know at this point in time. He's questionable with that illness. That takes a big piece off the table for that Colts offense as well. So scares me. I'm going to go with the under in this one because of solid defense and injuries.
Snap the ball to Jonathan Taylor and run the Wildcat. Fuck it. All right.
You could do that with any of their quarterbacks at that point. They're like, other than Daniel Jones, any of their quarterbacks, their tight end if he ends up playing.
Anthony Richardson would be great just running Wildcat, zone read, and then Alex Pierce down there somewheres. Like, that's really the only first round pick. Yeah. But let's move on to the next one, brother. Your game, your Vikings are headed out to Seattle. Out. What the fuck came out of my mouth right there? I don't know what accent that was.
Coming out to Minnesota.
Coming out to Minnesota. Jesus Christ. All right. The Seahawks are favored minus 11.5. Big ass spread over under 41.5. Evo, I'll let you take it away. Max Brosmer scheduled to go in this one.
Yes. JJ McCarthy is officially out for this game, still in concussion protocol. I know a lot of fans have been banging the table to see Brosmer in there based off of how JJ McCarthy has played earlier this year. I will continue to say it. I'm standing for JJ McCarthy. I want to have the patience. I think that there's something there. But I, too, am excited to see Brosmer go out there and play, because in limited time that we've seen him play as an undrafted rookie, primarily in the preseason, he looked really good. He did look good in the preseason. He played against the starting defense for a half from the Tennessee Titans and kind of tore him up. It was the Tennessee Titans, though. All credit to that. He was out there with the backups playing against the Tennessee Titan starters and looked pretty damn good. He also has a couple years of experience on JJ McCarthy. He's got a lot more of a passing resume in college than JJ McCarthy. So there are some positives there for Brosmer going out. Despite that, I don't expect him to go out there and have a good game because Seattle's a really fucking good team, really good offense, really good defense. Seattle is a very difficult place to play. We were able to squeak out a win against them last year in Seattle. So I'm going Seattle on the money line in this one. I don't expect us to go in there and win this game. And at this point, I am starting to officially look towards draft season and what we can do as far as getting ourselves a Caleb Downs or maybe a Jeremiah Love on this team.
Jeremiah Love would be an interesting piece there. Caleb Downs, I don't know how far you plan on falling in this draft, but you're going to have to pick top 5 to get him.
Well, I think top 6 is definitely within our range.
Okay.
For Caleb Love or for Caleb Downs. So
I don't know if he'll fall all the way to 6. But my man, I don't know that you guys are probably not winning this game. I think the big matchup in this one, though, is your defense versus Sam Darnold, because you guys just spent a whole bunch of time with Sam Darnold. You did the reclamation project. Know what he is and is not good at. I'm not saying you guys will win, but 11.5 is a lot of points. I don't know what Max Brosmer is going to do, but I think you might be able to get scrape enough together with a defense that has a pretty good read on what this quarterback is good at, that you could keep it close. I'm taking you guys plus 11.5 points. I don't think you will win, but I don't expect you to lose by 2 touchdowns. I think you will lose probably by 10, but even then, I still feel very comfortable here with that 1.5 spread. Matt, what do you got?
I mean, I'm in the same boat as you. 11.5 is pretty big gap. Brian Flores knows Sam Darnold, so I think that there's going to be a few times where he's going to have his gotcha moment. And with Max Brosmer, oh man, I kind of feel bad crapping, on your boy JJ McCarthy, but like it's just been a lot of bad ball. Now, to be fair with JJ, this is his first real year in the NFL with a lot of pressure in a solid division. But at the same time, you do have Jordan Addison. You do have one of the best wide receivers in the game. In my opinion, I do think that the running game is enough to get by. So I think this is going to be a relatively close game, but one of those where it's just like the score looks close, but it doesn't feel close kind of situation. And I do think Brosmer, especially with how much pressure has been put on JJ McCarthy and the negative outlook, I think that Brosmer comes out, has an average day, and then we have a lot of loud outside noise calling for McCarthy's head. So yeah, give me the points here. I think the Vikings keep it close, but ultimately, I don't think they win.
Yeah, that loud noise for his head is already there. Unfortunately, I can make a lot of excuses. I can definitely play devil's advocate with either side of the argument. I've been heavy on, hey, he sat for an entire year, didn't get to practice, didn't get up to NFL speed, and then his mechanics still need work, and now we're throwing him out there immediately and expecting him to do stuff. And you see, last game, as bad as his last game was, the first half, he was running a very vanilla offense and doing perfectly fine with it. When things got out of hand because of turnovers on special teams, that's when all of a sudden it gets ramped up and he goes errant because he blows the mechanics down, stops the mechanical training that he's been going through, and things look really bad from that point. Not to say the first half was great, but it was just a very vanilla, we're going to put the training wheels on style of offense. I think an off season of actually being able to practice and stuff will do wonders for him. But what you kind of brought up there is Brosmer could go out here and put up an average game. Kevin O'Connell is known for taking any quarterback and kind of throwing him out there and making him look good. And that's the mold that Brosmer is starting to fit into right now is, hey, this guy is a no-namer, essentially. We're going to go out there and make him look good. And he could go out there and have an average day, and all of a sudden the boo birds for McCarthy are going to be even louder. People are going to say, hey, Brosmer's the next Brock Purdy. And part of me is like, honestly, as much as I like JJ McCarthy, I don't really care as long as a quarterback becomes successful there with the Vikings, and it's not a guy that we're paying $40 million a year to be average, like we were with Kirk Cousins. I just want to see a successful quarterback go in there. If it's Brosmer, awesome. If it's McCarthy, awesome. But on the other hand, like, I don't want to see the failure of going and taking a guy top 10 and having to move on from him super quick, like a Trey Lance. Like that would suck for the organization, but people don't care about that if you start being successful. And so if Brosmer goes out there and balls out, like, I'll be happy. I could see this sneakily being a game that we go out and win because people aren't going to be expecting Brosmer to do anything. And if Brosmer goes out there and just feeds the ball to all those offensive weapons that we have, like, anything's possible. There's one thing that was brought up with Sam Darnold being on this team last year. Like, if anyone's going to know his demons, it's going to be Kevin O'Connell and Brian Flores. They're going to know how to rattle him. And he does have a penchant for turning the ball over. The Vikings have had a terrible turnover margin this year. Their defense has not turned the ball over other than when we played Cincy. And so that's very odd from last year when we were one of the highest turnover teams on defense. And this year we aren't at all. So this would be a good game for us to kind of try to flip that script a little bit, start getting more turnovers. Sam Darnold will give you those opportunities if you are putting the pressure on him. And I think Flores can do that. But as of right now, like, I don't see us winning this game. I see Seattle doing good things, and I see Sam Darnold trying to have that chip on his shoulder of being like, yeah, you guys probably should have paid me the money to stay there, be your quarterback. Not that I think that he's upset with the situation he's in right now.
No, he's living his life. So Seahawks money line for you, Evo, was it?
Seahawks money line. All right, and then next up we have the Buffalo Bills going into Pittsburgh versus the Steelers. Steelers trying to hold on as much as possible to that AFC North, but it's not looking great. Aaron Rodgers slated to start in this one. Bills are the road favorites, -3 points, -112 odds, over under a 45.5.
Yeah, Bills need this game, I feel like. But also so do the Steelers. With the shakeup with the Ravens going down on Black Friday, on Thanksgiving, that was the night game. They can take the division lead back with a win here against an up and down Bills team. This has playoff implications in the AFC already. And I think the Bills are a better team. I'm ready for the boom. Let's let the wheels fall off of this thing with Aaron Rodgers and the Steelers. They are not an impressive team. They are old on defense. But you know what? Every once in a while, they run into a team and they just jump on them with turnovers. And that's how they win. Josh Allen has been known to turn the ball over. That's the deciding factor in this game. If Josh takes care of the ball, the Bills win this thing. And that's where I'm going. Bills money line for me. Mac, what do you got?
I'm taking the Bills points here. Past 2 years, and then if you look over the past 5 years, there's really only been twice where the Steelers like actually finished the season well. Usually they start out hot and then completely fall apart, just like how they did in 2020, 2023, and last year. So I really don't see anything good coming out of this game for Pittsburgh. Aaron Rodgers is coming back from a hand injury. I know that he's not going to be 100%, but they have to thrust him out there because they know what Mason Rudolph is giving them. So, their defense just isn't what they were. And then, you're playing a Bills team that got absolutely embarrassed in prime time, and we've never seen the Bills get this low. I would say outside of like Josh Allen's like first 2 years in Buffalo, right? So I think Sean McDermott, who's one of those like leader type coaches, I think they come together after the long week and they're going to say, hey, we've gotten absolutely just slaughtered the past couple weeks. Like, we need to come together and we need a statement win. And I think they make that statement win in Pittsburgh. Play Renegade as much as you can, ladies and gentlemen. But I don't think that it's going to stop Josh Allen from going nuclear, because this Pittsburgh Steelers secondary has become desperate, which is crazy to me, because, since 2019, we've seen like a very turnover heavy, bend, don't break kind of style, but it's like, it feels like they're almost like trying everything. They got rid of Micah because they thought that, like, okay, he plays too much improvising, and we need to get kind of like a structure settle on everything. So they brought in Ramsey, right? Well, they tried out Juan Thornhill. Hey, Browns fans, we tried to warn you, but he came into Pittsburgh, didn't work out. Elliott's been battling injuries here and there. They brought in Jabril Peppers. If that doesn't tell you how desperate Pittsburgh is in their secondary, that they brought in guys like Juan Thornhill and Jabril Peppers, I don't know what to tell you. And I think it'll be a little bit refreshing to see a guy like Brandon Cooks come in for the Bills, because they are just starving for wide receiver help, which, hey, by the way, you should have just picked Ladd McConkey. So just saying, I'm going to take the points here for the Bills. I think it's going to be a big statement win. And once again, we are going to see Pittsburgh fall flat late in the season.
Evo.
Yeah, I'm going Buffalo on the money line. I don't think that they're going to see any sort of a benefit from bringing Aaron Rodgers back in there. The run game is what can defeat the Bills. I don't think that Jalen Warren and Kenneth Gainwell, while they probably will put together like 120 yards on the ground together, I think that the Bills can really attack that Steelers secondary. I think Dalton Kincaid is expected to be back, which is that big safety net for Josh Allen. But like you kind of brought up, they've been getting pushed around a little bit. The Bills have been. And this is a really come to Jesus moment for this Bills team. If they want to be a playoff team, if they want to go for the Super Bowl and show that their window isn't closing, they have to go out there and perform this week. This is a huge one for them. And the Bills definitely aren't what they have been in previous years, but I like them in this one. I feel like I had something else to say about this, and now I just completely spaced my mind on it. Oh yeah, Steelers are 6-5. They're floating too close to having that positive record. If they were to get a win here, then they're going to have to lose a bunch more. Like, that doesn't fit the Tomlin narrative. So they have to get a loss here in order to keep it at 6-6, to try to keep right around that 500 mark by the end of the year. Otherwise, things get too out of whack, and the moon would crash into the earth. So I'm going Buffalo on the money line. All right, next up, we have the Raiders and the Chargers out in L.A. Nope, that's the right game. Sorry, my computer is all wonky right now. Raiders versus Chargers out in L.A. We've got the Chargers being favored minus 9.5 points at minus 110 odds, over under of 40.5. This is the first game for the Raiders without Chip Kelly as offensive coordinator. I don't know if you saw any of the reports, Mac, about apparently Chip Kelly was calling like wrong plays and stuff like that, and that led to part of his firing, which I find pretty interesting. And the Chargers team just hasn't looked the same since both those tackles have been gone. Not getting Marion Hampton back yet. Going to be running Kamani Vidal back out there as running back. But this Raiders team just looks really bad. Geno doesn't look great. The defense doesn't look great. Now they're rolling out with a new offensive coordinator. Interesting matchup, I guess. I'm looking to get your thoughts here. If you think the Raiders have any sort of chance, because personally, I think the Chargers are a much better team. I don't know if you think the Raiders got any sort of chance. It is a high number there. You can give them 9.5 points to keep it kind of close, but
the Browns beat the shit out of the Raiders last week.
Yeah.
Now, granted, I don't think the Chargers defense is as good as ours, at least not up front. But the Chargers are a far superior team in basically all aspects of the Raiders. Geno has played awful. The butting of the head with the offensive coordinator, they did make the change, right? The fire offensive coordinator. Yeah. So we'll see if that gives them any kind of boost. I don't know that it will, though. I mean, the Chargers their biggest problem is on offense protecting Herbert. But they're not going to have a problem stopping this kind of offense that the Raiders have been constructing. They have really good tight ends, but everything about the way this offense has been constructed, old Chip Kelly, not Chip Kelly, the guy that just got fired, head coach,
Pete
Carroll. This shit's not going the way that he wanted it to go. I have no faith in them whatsoever. I think the Chargers probably stomp them, but I don't want to give up 9.5. I've given up a lot of points already today. I mean, I gave up 10.5 on the Rams. I don't want to give up that many more, so I'm just going to take the money line here.
What are your thoughts here, Mac?
Yeah, so I'm definitely going to take the points here for the Chargers. There's no way in hell the Raiders keep it close unless Max Crosby takes over the game. Now, there's still a chance that they could. The Chargers are very banged up on the offensive line, but they're also coming off the bye week, and Jim Harbaugh is one of those guys where he preaches nothing but like technique and structure, right? He's one of those coaches. So I think that he's going to have a really good game out of the bye here. And I also look at this Raiders coaching staff. I can't believe that nobody raised the red flags when they constructed this whole thing, because I kind of looked at it and I said, okay, Pete Carroll, he's got his quarterback in Geno. They drafted a running back. They're going to be old school here. I think that they can make things interesting. Brock Bowers, and keep things, and kind of keep this thing interesting. But then you look deeper. His son is helping coach the O-line. They have Andy Dickerson as their O-line coach. I'm sorry. Did nobody learn the lesson last year about Mike Vrabel having to come in and do his job for him? The fact that that's the guy that you're bringing in. And then on defense, you have the most overrated defensive coordinator of all time, Joe Woods. Yeah, no. Justin Herbert's going to have just a good time, against that shell coverage where it's just nothing but cover 4. And I'm sure that Quentin Johnson's going to eat and have a little bit of yak. I'm sure Ladd McConkey's going to find some soft spots in the zones and have a good time there. So I think this is going to be a really ugly, afternoon again, because the Chargers coming off the bye here. So they're going to be rested up, ready to go. And the Raiders, they are just one of the worst teams in football. And it's not, and it's really sad because, again, they have a good running back with Genty that they give up on in the first quarter of almost every game. They have one of the best tight ends in the league, Brock Bowers, but for like whatever reason, they just can't get the passing game going. And then you have Geno Smith who, I don't think that he's playing awful, but he's not playing winnable football, meaning that like he's trying to like improvise and act like he can extend the play, but that's not his game. That never really was his game. He makes 2 reads and takes off. He's that kind of guy, but he keeps trying to push the ball downfield and then it's a mess. So I think this is going to be a big one. I'm taking Chargers points. And again, it's really sad because I respected Pete Carroll so much going into this year. But, if you would have told me that this is the offensive staff that he constructed, I definitely would have been like, hey, this is probably not going to work out.
Yeah, apparently there's a little bit of embarrassment from Brady because he really pushed, I guess, for Chip Kelly to go in there. And then to hear that he's making incorrect calls, like having to be told, like, that's not like the correct play that you're calling or something like that, like making mistakes like that. It's pretty embarrassing. I don't really have much else to put into this game. Chargers on the money line for me to keep it safe. I hate dropping large point spreads, so I'm going Chargers in this one. Max Crosby getting home to Justin Herbert could be a little bit scary, but I think that they've got enough other options and quick pass game options and stuff like that they'll be able to make simple work of that. All right, next up, Denver Broncos going into Washington versus the Commanders. Jaden Daniels is not going to play. There was talks about it, but he's not going to play. Still out with that elbow injury.
Don't even think about bringing that young man back this year.
Yeah,
but get healthy.
Broncos are favorites on the road, -5.5 points at -115 odds. Over under of 43.5. I will quickly get this out there. I got the Broncos on the money line in this one. I'm very seriously considering dropping the points, but for the show, I will just take them on the money line. I think they're a much better team. Patrick Surtain coming back in this game for the Broncos, riding high on the Alex Singleton news about being cancer-free. And hopefully Bo Nix is more than just a fourth quarter quarterback and kind of put together a whole game here versus this old Commanders defense. I will take the Broncos on the money line.
My man, I am actually going to drop the points. I'm going Broncos -5.5. They're a far superior team. Listen, without Jaden Daniels, that Commanders team is going to struggle. And listen, they haven't been nearly as good as they were this year as they were last year, even when Jaden Daniels was there. So the Broncos, who are getting healthier, they are, a top record in the AFC right now. So I think that trend continues. I don't see them even making this thing remotely close unless Bo Nix has a beginning of Bo Nix's career game where he just puts up 47 yards on 38% completion percentage, which could happen all the way up until the fourth quarter. We've seen it happen. But even then, I think the Broncos will pull away. So I'm dropping 5.5 here.
And Broncos, not the best record in the AFC. That
second best
goes to our next team that we're going to be talking about. But Mac, thoughts on this game?
I'm going the under. I think that it's going to be ugly on offense. Marcus Mariota has never been a good quarterback ever. So he's going up against a top defense in Denver. And then on the other side of the ball, they have the ugliest offense that just keeps on winning. And I wanted to believe in Bo Nix, but it's just like week after week, you're just underperforming. I mean, he did have that very great fourth quarter, and my fantasy team thanks you, Bo. But you're clearly kind of a game manager here, and credit to Sean Payton for keeping this whole thing together. I would have taken Broncos money line, but the under odds are a little bit better. So I'm going to take that. I think it's going to be an ugly game. I think it's going to be one of those to where, and thank God I'm going to be coming out of the Browns game, so I don't have to watch this afternoon game. But I think it's just going to be one of those ugly, 19-17 kind of situations to where you're just looking at the TV, just saying, the hell is this?
I can feel that. For sure. I hope that's not the score since I'm dropping the points, but I can feel where that's coming from. But that's going to take us into our last game, our Monday night game. We got the Giants heading out to New England, taking on the Patriots. Patriots favored -7.5, over under 46.5. Evo, we alluded to it earlier. Jameis Winston. You have no idea what's going to happen. This is the right way to tank, the fun way to tank. 7.5 is terrifying to me because you never know what Jameis Winston's going to do.
You don't have to worry about it unless they put him out there at wide receiver because Jackson Dart is back, baby. It's a darting party.
Oh, I did not know that Jackson Dart was back in this game. That maybe I don't know. I don't know, man. Listen, I wanted Jameis to play because Jameis was my off the hook player of the week last week. He had an insane game. The vibes will be strong even with Jackson Dart back out there. But this Giants team, I don't know what to make of them. They are good and they're bad. They fight hard, but they don't have as much talent because they're so fucking injured. I like this team, but this Patriots team is really, really fucking good. If Jameis was out there, no chance in hell I'm dropping 7.5 because Jameis will fuck around and get a triple-double somehow and keep this thing fucking close. So I'm going Patriots on the money line. But even with Dart being the guy, I still think that's the right call. 7.5 is a lot of points for a very scrappy Giants team, even though they are hurt.
All right, Mac, what are your thoughts on this one? Is Dart being back out there going to provide them a boon, or would it be more fun with Jameis?
It would definitely be more fun with Jameis. Now, I am a believer in Jackson Dart, but playing Mike Vrabel's defense in New England is not a great idea. I think it's going to be very similar to the Browns situation when they, played New England, because this is Jackson Dart's first game in several weeks. So I think he's going to be pretty rusty. So I think it's going to be close. And then Drake May is going to continue to play safe, but I think he's probably going to get sacked probably 2 or 3 times. But he's going to play some safe football. And I think that they're going to pull away late. And then it's going to be one of those where things are going to get out of hand and Jackson Dart's going to want to play hero ball. And it's just going to end up kind of being, I don't want to say a blowout, but like a healthy, like 10 to 12 point win. So I'm taking Patriots points. Again, Mike Vrabel's defense in New England is going to be too good, and the Giants just don't have enough firepower on offense to alleviate the load from Jackson Dart here with his first game back.
All right. And Mike, did you say you were taking New England on the money line in this one?
I am taking New England on the money line. All
righty. I'm going to take the Giants plus the points here. It's a little over a touchdown at 7.5 points that they need to give me this spread. I don't think it doesn't make a huge difference for me, Jackson Dart or Jameis being out there. I just think they're going to kind of be wild and fun with it. You have Mike Kafka calling a game where he's trying to potentially earn himself a gig there going forward, whether it's be for the next head coach is saying as the offensive coordinator to have some sort of continuity with Jackson Dart, or potentially if he starts to put together a good resume, get looked at for that actual head coaching opportunity at the end of the year. I think that he's going to taper back a little bit from what Daboll did, try to keep Jackson Dart from killing himself, but still kind of get loose with it because you have to get creative with the weapons that they have there in New York. Tyron Tracy and Devin Singletary look to be a decent little combo, not as good as, when you had the headbutt king out there, but like you've got some decent number 2 style options in Wan'Dale Robinson and Darius Slayton and Theo Johnson showing up decently at tight end. So like they have gotten rid of the defensive coordinator. That is a big question mark there for New York, whether or not that's going to be a good thing for them or not with Shane Bowen out. But I think that they can keep it kind of close. New England doesn't seem like a team to me that blows anybody out. Like I think the world of what Vrabel's been doing for him up there. I think Jackson Dart is phenomenal, Drake May is phenomenal. I think Dart's phenomenal too. But I think that this one could be a little bit closer. I still expect New England to win, and I was going to go on the money line in this one, but at 7.5 points, I think that they can keep it within that spread, and Giants might be able to cover that one.
All right. Listen, man, I get it. The Giants are scrappy. And what we got to watch last week with Jameis was just fucking incredible. The back shoulder fade will go down in history of one of the coolest things I've ever seen a quarterback do.
I truly hope we get to see both Jameis and Jackson on the field at the same time. One of them getting the ball to the other one for a touchdown. That would be the coup de grace of the season for the Giants. That would be amazing.
Double pass action, maybe.
Oh, some weird fleet. Can you put 2 quarterbacks in the backfield at the same time in like a wing formation and have the center like snap it at an angle?
I'm sure you could. I don't know what that would do for you, but
it would confuse me. I wouldn't know what's going on, but I'd be there for it.
Okay. All right. You have to, instead of running back out your side, you're just taking quarterback out your side?
Yeah, something like that.
Interesting. All right. Well, Mac, that is the last of our games, but we got one more thing to go over. We got fuck my words. We got Blitz's big ass bet. And we kind of talked about some of these guys throughout the day. Blitz came in with a fucking heater. This is his biggest parlay of the year. But Matt, you talked about Justin Herbert having himself a day. Well, Blitz likes that as well. Over 250 passing yards. I talked about Bucky Irving getting in the end zone. I mean, he's their best in between the tackles runner, and Baker is certainly going to be banged up. If they get down in that red zone, I think Bucky could hit here. And then we didn't really talk about JSN, but if the ball is getting thrown around up in Seattle, that's who the fuck is catching it. 8+ reception at plus 140. We got total odds of 1432. 10 will win you 143.20. That's a pretty damn good bet. Evo, this is a bold move by our boy Blitz.
Yeah, Blitz is really pushing hard at the end of the year to try to earn you some money. He knows the holiday season is coming up. You need to buy presents for family and all that stuff. So you might as well make a little bit now so that way you can spend it on your family later. Blitz is a family pup. He wants you to take care of your family. Forget that you're gambling. All right. Forget the volatility of that. He wants you to make some money gambling as long as you're doing it safe. So that way you can get Christmas presents for the family or Hanukkah presents or whatever. Kwanzaa. Does Kwanzaa do presents? I don't know.
I'm not sure. I've never asked. It feels like it could be a question for our AI, but while I pull that up and I ask him, Mac, what do you think about this little parlay that we got from our boy Blitz here?
I think Justin Herbert, that's a safe bet. I think Bucky Irvin is a safe bet because, whether it's going to be a run or a touchdown out of the backfield, I do think that Bucky Irvin's going to get on the board. The only one that worries me is the JSN. Simply because I don't know if Minnesota is going to be in the game enough for Jackson Smith-Njigba to have, the targets to get 8 receptions. So that's the only one that really worries me. But in terms of like a big home run hitter type parlay, this is pretty realistic for the odds. So I do like it. It's a little bit risky, but that's why they call it gambling.
Yeah,
that absolutely is why they call it gambling. I'm going to bring in our guy Sleeves real quick to get us an answer on Hanukkah. Or not Hanukkah, on Kwanzaa, sorry.
One of them holidays.
Oh, failed to start voice mode. What? Come on, Sleeves, you son of a bitch. All right, I will Google it some other time and we'll let the people know.
Yeah. Hey, in the comments, people, we got plenty of people watching right now. We appreciate you. Please let us know in the comments. Are there Kwanzaa presents?
Yeah, because we don't know.
That's all we need to know after this episode.
But guys, thank you very much. Max, thank you very much for being here, my man. This was a long episode. I appreciate you sticking around for as long as you did. Let the people know where they can interact with you, follow you, and see all the things that you're doing.
So THA_Buffalo. I'm on Twitter. I'm refusing to call it X. I'm on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok. It's the same username all across the board. Come find me. Trying to do as much content as I can. So always happy to sit here and talk ball with you guys. I had a lot of fun, with the last episode that I was on, as well as the big, cause we also did like a group mock draft together, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So that was always a good time. So I appreciate you guys having me, and giving me a little airspace here. And it kind of forced me to dig in a little bit more around the league. So I do appreciate that.
Absolutely, man. Matt, thank you so much. And to everybody tuning in right now, thank you all very much. Time is the most valuable thing that you have. So anytime that you give some of it to us, we are forever grateful. With that, I'm going to give my man Evo one last word, and then we're getting the fuck out of here, and we'll see you guys back on Tuesday.
Hey, everybody. Thank you for watching. Thank you for tuning in today. Nice long show. Hopefully you had a good holidays, and hopefully you're enjoying leftovers while watching us and watching Michigan make a huge comeback versus Ohio State, because that's going to happen, right? 27-9 right now in the fourth quarter. Yeah, it'll be a fun one. Thank you for tuning in, everybody. We really appreciate you.
Guys, thank you very much. Matt, OH.
IO.
Suck it, Michigan. Guys, we will be back Tuesday night. Thank you very much, but we're getting the fuck out of here. See you.